Hello again. Let's have a look at the papers now. Broadcaster and author Gemma Forte and journalist and broadcaster Bidisha joining us this morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for waking up earlier and joining us. Gemma, let's start with you. How has the PM likened what's happening in Ukraine to Brexit? This is the front page of the Observer.
Yes, the Observer have gone with this. Actually, the Sunday Times have as well. And this is all about the speech that Johnson made at the Conservative Scottish Conference, where for some unknown reason, although I have my suspicions, he likened Brexit to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. It's so tasteless. It's really depraved, quite frankly. It feels like we've had a very brief respite from the Prime Minister saying something absolutely ludicrous. And I think, like most people, I felt, okay, we all need to come together now, given what's going on globally. And you could see Keir Starmer took the heat off in terms of calling for his resignation. But after this, quite frankly, I think Keir Starmer should put the heat back on, because he's a crushing liability. If you think of the things that he could have said instead, in order to unite us all alongside Europe against Russia, but he didn't. He went this route, and it's so tasteless. I do not remember there being a referendum in Ukraine asking the people there whether they wanted to be invaded and have their houses razed to the ground by missiles and to have their loved ones killed. It's so disgusting to make that comparison to leaving a trading bloc. And so you ask yourself, why? This is a prepared speech. This wasn't just a quick gaffe. So I can only think that he's playing to the core base who put him there as the poster child of Brexit, and he's reminding them of that because he hasn't got much else. But to also infer within the same speech that if Labour were in charge, they'd be waving a white flag to Putin. Again, incorrect. And the contrast between Keir Starmer putting the country's best interests at the forefront by easing off the pedal against Johnson, and by trying to collaborate, and then you've got Johnson, just everything is about his own political gain. And of course it's been seen by everybody, and internationally it's made a splash as well, right at the time where we should be looking like a united front with Europe.
Let's bring up the front page of the Observer as well, and just look at how they've laid it out. Bidisha, I don't know if you've got a copy there. It's really interesting that they've chosen to put, can we bring up the front page of the Observer? They've put the, there. Can you see on the right there, this is a man who survived 7 days without medical attention after being shot in the thigh after helping his wife and a neighbor escape Russian soldiers. Bidisha, what do you think of the PM comparing what's happening in Ukraine to Brexit?
I think that I completely agree with the comments that we just heard. The tastelessness, that phrase crushing liability, I think is a very apt and well chosen one. You should never, ever exploit a military invasion for any kind of jokey political gain. These things are not there to be made a pun of. They're not there for a domestic politician to somehow quarrel and gain local support. It's not an in-joke. He must have known that everything he said was then going to be reported far and wide. The immediate reaction of sort of shock and disgust from the international community has been completely on point, I think. I don't think it's overblown at all. And it's just so incredibly insulting to all of those all over the world who've suffered invasion, war, and forced migration. One thing is not like another thing, regardless of what you think about Brexit, indeed, regardless of where you stand on international relations, if you see yourself as a political person or not, it's not to be made fun of. And to see this happen is so callous. And it tells you something about the person saying it, that they can't even realize. Did PM Johnson not realize that this is totally inappropriate? It's not to be said now. It's not to be said ever.
Bidisha, Gemma, just hang on 1 minute, because we do have some breaking news coming in, and this is the Reuters news agency. They're quoting the Mariupol City Council saying that Russian forces have bombed an art school where 400 residents had taken refuge, but there's no information yet on casualties from that bombing of the art school. That's the Mariupol City Council, and Reuters are reporting that. Right, well, let's go back to Bidisha and look at the front page of the Sunday Express. Bidisha, I feel that every morning I wake up and brace myself before I even look at my phone to see what breaking news was on overnight. And this missile now is just quite extraordinary.
Well, this tallies with the breaking news that you just announced about the attack on the Arts Center. What we're seeing is that a very desperate Vladimir Putin is brazenly attacking civilian targets. And not just that, he's saber-rapping. So the fact of the matter is that the Ukrainian resistance has been exceptionally strong. And despite this continued shelling, Russia has not managed to permanently take any Ukrainian cities. So this firing of this hypersonic missile now, it's the precursor to all of Putin's threats about nuclear attacks and nuclear wars. The Kinzhal missile is a hypersonic missile which is capable of carrying nuclear warheads. He fired it just on Friday in the west of Ukraine. So you see, he's making an incursion, not just around the borders of the country, but into the westward area of the country. And he's saying, well, if you're not careful, I'm going to deploy this missile for what it was meant for, which is carrying nuclear weapons. Now, if you did that, just to give some factoids, if you hit an area with a nuclear missile, everyone within a 1.2 mile radius will be immediately killed. Everyone within a nearly 7-mile radius will suffer third-degree burns, and hundreds of thousands of kilometers around will suffer from severe radiation sickness and all that entails. So this is not the kind of tactic that it's possible to fight against. And of course, we know that Russia holds the greatest nuclear arsenal out of all the countries. So this is really overt aggression. NATO, the EU, the whole of the world community is absolutely right to be alarmed every time Putin does this. And he's absolutely right to be alarmed every time Putin does this. And he's shown that he has no conscience at all about striking art schools, which is what's happened just now, but also hospitals, maternity hospitals, places where women, children and men, citizens, not combatants, are fighting, are hiding. Sorry, that's a Freudian slip. They're fighting very well. The Ukrainian people are really resisting very well. But he is firing on civilian targets to destabilize civil life, civic, ordinary existence for the people of Ukraine.
Which is exactly what he did in Syria. We saw it there, didn't we? Let's leave Ukraine for a moment. And Gemma, just talk us through page 3 of the Sunday Express. Who's saying that the online safety bill risks free speech?
Well, David Davis, the ex-Brexit secretary, has huge concerns, as do many other people as well. So there's so much to unpick here. My concern is that I think the majority of people agree that it's high time something was done to protect children, for instance, from illegal content on the internet, to have a look at, young children being able to access pornography, for example. However, this bill is messy, it's incoherent, and it's very, very broad, and it aims to do a lot more than that. And much of it is ringing massive alarm bells for many people. So, for instance, it will require websites accessed by the UK to purchase government-specified surveillance software. Now, first of all, what's this going to do to small businesses? It's going to create an awful lot of red tape, which is something I thought we were supposed to be slashing. Many people saying it's completely unworkable. But also, who's going to be owning these government-specified surveillance information software companies? Because we've already seen the government giving contracts to friends before with things like PPE. So that needs to be transparent, certainly. But also, this is Nadine Dorries who's putting this all through, the lady that asked Microsoft the other day whether they'd be getting rid of algorithms. And she also has put in this clause about legal but harmful speech. Now, who's going to decide what that is? Does that cover jokes? Does that cover political discourse, debate? Does it mean disagreeing with the government narrative? What does it mean? So it's very, very authoritarian in spirit, alongside the policing bill, which people have got such big concerns about, where you can now be arrested if you make a noise on a protest. It's this kind of authoritarian overtones coming from this government once more, and I'm not sure personally I trust it, but I'm certainly not alone.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there, but we've got next hour. So Gemma and Bidisha, thanks a lot. We'll see you in an hour. You're watching Sky News Breakfast. Still to come, We will have plenty more on the situation in Ukraine, including that latest news out of Mariupol.